I do think this is a good point by Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson just called Donald Trump whiny.
I mean, he's just speaking truth. That's the
first time he picked the right word that actually explains the thing.
He's 100% right here. But yeah, I mean, it is whiny. It sounds like you know what it sounds like? It's like a boxer who's like, I won that fight no matter what anyone said. And you're like, okay. That's what it feels like. The only difference is with a 75-year-old man who wants to get his hands on the nuclear codes, right? A man who is now...
The what?
The nuke... Don't even press me, Heem. I swear to God, okay?
I just didn't hear you.
A man who right now is having people go to Mar-a-Lago and they have to go find all these documents that Donald Trump just tore up. He's tearing up documents, throwing them on the ground. Where's the crowd who was so angry about the emails, by the way? It's a totally separate point. But the dude's whining. So the first thing I want to talk about is Jordan Peterson. We all know Jordan Peterson. We all know and love Jordan Peterson, right?
Yeah.
Right?
We can say that. He's a daddy of sorts.
He's a Canadian icon. Undeniably.
Yeah. I mean, some would say hero.
So it's not good.
Okay.
Some
would certainly say that. Okay. So the first thing I want to cover today is this story about Jordan Peterson. So how would you politically describe Jordan?
A dumbass.
Politically, like maybe like right wing, I guess, center right. He's more like he's more. I've been paying attention to him a lot. He's more of like a culture war guy. I think he's an
enlightened centrist. He's a rugged individualist. He has no politics, but that is his politics.
Oh,
anti-COVID as well, anti-lockdowns, he's pro the freedom convoy. He thinks Justin Trudeau's a evil monster.
Well, we all know that Justin Trudeau is an evil. Not really debating anything, right? Anyway, what we are talking about today is what Jordan Peterson had to say about Donald Trump, because he had some, I would say, like, relative for the talk show he's on, which is a pretty right-wing talk show, and relative to the people who lie in his nest with him, I don't know what to say, his colleagues, was, I would say, a decent criticism of Donald Trump, which I got to give him credit for. Let's watch it quick.
You know, we talked about Trump earlier. Here's my dilemma with Trump, one of many. He's beating the election was stolen drum pretty damn hard. And I look at that as an outsider, again, because I'm Canadian, and I think, well, you Americans, you've been split 50-50 for like 5 decades, like right down the middle, eh? And there's always election trouble, because no system is 100% perfect. Maybe there's like a 1%, 2% margin of crookedness, something like that. And you're probably really not going to get rid of that. Maybe you can maneuver carefully to keep it so that it's never any more than 1 or 2%. But to get rid of that last bit of malfeasance and deception and corruption would take such a heavy hand that would become worse.
By the way, can I just say, margin of what? I don't even know what he's saying when it comes to this part, okay? This part isn't what's important.
It sounds like he's just making up numbers on like what might be the levels of corruption.
Okay. Yeah. The problem is, election fraud is really, really, really small. Much smaller than 1 to 2%. Not even close. So I don't know where he's getting these numbers. Even though he's still making it sound smaller.
Well, he's just making them up.
But he's also saying something that I do think is valid. Like, there's a certain amount of election fraud that there's no amount of regulations you can put in could get rid of. And the level of regulations you would need to put in would just be discouraging more and more and more people from actually having to go out and vote. And so the more barriers you put up, the less people that's going to access anything. That's true.
The argument for voter restrictions is always like based on futility, right? Like, and same with immigration in the sense that they're like, well, you're always going to get criminals over the border or something like that. Like, it's just like we can never reduce it to 0. So therefore that becomes the argument in general. And so we should take every precaution that we can, like, to reduce the risk as close to 0 as possible. You know, that's how they talk about it. But 1 to 2% is like such a insanely high projection of what the like significance of voter fraud is in the country. Like, that's just, it blows my mind how like dumb he is on this.
You know what's this guy and Russell Brand, bro. These two guys are so good at talking without actually saying anything that like it's really like world class. Like sometimes I'll watch clips of this guy and like it literally makes no sense. Like he just says words that he, I guess it comes off sounding really smart, but I don't think it actually a lot of the times he makes no sense.
But let's give him credit though, that him saying like that smaller amount, you're not really ever going to be able to get rid of it, right?
Of course,
he's basically
yeah.
saying like, dude, there's always going to be some level of fraud in any system.
Yeah.
But you gotta still, you know, he's not saying this part, but I'm saying this part. But your priority should be getting as many legitimate votes in as possible. So even if somebody did try, it doesn't even matter. And if you put too many barriers up, you're gonna start like stopping more and more people from actually accessing the vote. If you make it harder for somebody to buy a product, less people are gonna buy a product. You make it harder, no matter how small that barrier could be. Ultimately, less people are gonna go out there and vote, right? And since
this is why I say he's like an enlightened centrist, because like half of his politics, like, or half of his takes can be read from a reactionary perspective, and then half of them can be like not even half, like maybe like a real fraction of a percent can be read from like a different angle. He's just a logic bro.
But let's listen to the rest of what he has to say here.
Yeah.
The problem. And that's a real problem when you're split 50-50, because small election irregularities can throw the whole election. Okay, so it isn't obvious precisely what can be done about that. But the election was stolen narrative, I think it's weak for a variety of reasons. The first is it's pretty whiny. Like, why didn't you win with 5% margin then? So how do you know this isn't your fault? And you think the Republicans aren't gerrymandering congressional districts? Because they are. And so it's not obvious that even if it is the case that there is substantive election fraud, that it's all from one side. And so there's that. And then
let's address this first. He called him whiny. Jordan Peterson just called Donald Trump whiny.
I mean, he's just speaking
that's
truth.
The first
like,
time he picked the right word that actually explains the thing.
Oh my god, whiny. I mean, I'm happy he used that word with how big his vocabulary is. Okay, but yeah, I mean, it is whiny. It sounds like you know what it sounds like? It's like a boxer who's like, I won that fight no matter what anyone said. And you're like, okay. That's what it feels like. The only difference is with a 75-year-old man who wants to get his hands on the nuclear codes, right? A man who is now...
The what?
The nuke... Don't even press me, Heem. I swear to God, okay?
I just didn't hear you for
a man
second.
who right now is having people go to Mar-a-Lago and they have to go find all these documents that Donald Trump just tore up. He's tearing up documents, throwing them on the ground. Where's the crowd who was so angry about the emails, by the way? It's a totally separate point. But the dude's whiny, and he's 100% right here. And not to mention that, and he plays off of, I think, a little bit of the Republican machismo around Donald Trump when he goes into the point of, why not 5% then? I mean, if your movement was so amazing and cool and great, as much as Trump hypes it up, why was it down to these narrow margins? I heard so many of you guys leading up to the election, 5, 10, 20%, there's going to be a landslide. Tim Pool, 49 state landslide, right? To be fair to Tim Pool, he said that if Trump tried to legalize marijuana. Still stupid point, by the way. That still wouldn't be the case.
You would. I think he would have won by.
He would have won by 52 states. They would have had to create 2 more states just to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's the state of being blazed.
Yeah. And what was the last point Jordan made? He made one more point, I think.
He said there's definitely gerrymandering happening.
Yeah, and then he brought up Republican gerrymandering efforts, which I thought was also
just to say that at least it happens.
But still,
on both sides.
It doesn't matter. He'll still fucking back Trump if Trump runs. He'll still like he won't. I don't know if he endorses political candidates, but his arguments will end up, you know. He knows where his bread is buttered. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, I
think this argument doesn't have the legs to do that. I think like he's just saying like voter suppression happens on the Republican end. To act like it only happens on one end is like fallacious, and to like your burden of proof to show that like it was significant enough just based on the fact that like we should have won by this much like is too high, and you can't pass that bar.
Here's a big thing I want to point to. Right now, I was kind of, it actually like kind of grabbed me a little bit hearing him say these things. And I think that's disturbing that kind of grabbed me a bit. Like, whoa, he's saying what's obvious. He's just registering obvious reality. It's not like this tax policy works, that's obvious. This policy works, that's obvious. Drug war's bad, that's obvious. But obvious reality, Biden won. It's whiny to whine about
Get
losing
over
the
it,
election.
yeah.
You get over it. And the Republicans gerrymandered too. Like, what the fuck? He's just
probably
acknowledging
found-
basic realities. But for some reason, my bar has been lowered to such extents in this era of
You had to make a
politics
segment out of this.
that I'm like, wow, oh my God, he acknowledged the current president existence and
You
legitimacy.
know what my conspiracy theory on this is?
What's that?
Is that he found one leftist mainstream media news outlet that doesn't cover any trans issues or any gender issues, so he could like finally start to take in like actual good points. Because he was like, they're not going to say anything I disagree with here, so let's see.
Let's keep listening. He has one more point. I want to hear it.
You're sure that's the message you want to be sending people? That they shouldn't have faith in their most fundamental institution? You might be right, but
Pause it.
But-
he does this same shit. He does this in Canada.
That
He literally fucking does the exact same shit that he's complaining about here in Canada with Canadian politics.
really? What is he,
can't believe-
what is he
Yes!
doing? What
Oh
is he
my
doing?
god, I can't.
I don't know.
I gotta make a segment on this shit, bro.
By the
The
way,
shit
I
he
saw
tweets-
that he was polling, I think, second for the conservative prime ministership.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't. He would actually probably be the best
Not
candidate
only
they have. They
that,
have
but
no
he
one.
has been interviewed and he says he doesn't want to run for office.
Fucking hell, he's so. It's unreal that he's saying this.
But you were saying, well, how does he do this?
Bro, he the
know.
way he goes after Trudeau is like very fucking like he'll say like Justin Trudeau is he might say traitor or like allude to the fact that he thinks Justin Trudeau's a traitor, like, and that the convoy is the speaking for the majority of the people, like, all this bullshit like this.
Okay.
That like undermines the exactly what he
Convoy
just
speaks
said.
for the people. I don't think it's the same. Is he saying it specifically about the election system though, like who wins and loses elections?
I gotta do. I'm gonna do a
I
segment on
think
this
there's
based
a
off.
distinct difference between supporting something that you might think like endangers public health or is like a bad protest for a terrible movement or even like a strike that shuts down stuff. There's a difference between that and doubting the legitimacy of a nation's elections because then the political system cannot function in that second choice.
Okay, no, he didn't do it for the election, but he does it for like just undermining
Institutions.
the legitimacy of their moves, I guess, or stuff like that. Yeah.
Or the
Where
legitimacy
do
of
you
the
land
government.
in the Canadian political system?
I'm like
You're the purple, right? The purple team? What are they called?
I'm a strategic voter. So in the previous election, like in the last one that just passed, in my district, Libs were guaranteed, so I voted NDP, which is like the even more left-wing party.
Yeah.
But in the one
Which is
before
that's
that,
the orange one, right?
yeah, the orange one. But the one
Yeah.
before that, I went to my parents' riding because I still had my driver's license for there. And it was between the Liberals and the Conservatives, was neck and neck in the polls. And like I ended up voting for the Liberal candidate there, and it was like 40,000 votes were cast, and it came down to like 100 votes or something to split the difference between them. So I
Dang.
felt fucking so good about that. I'm like, let's go, baby. Even though he's a fucking shitty lib, but who cares?
I mean, your weird foreign election system scares me fundamentally, and I think it's fake, and you're all still controlled by the Queen. But I respect your strategic efforts.
Thank you. I got that toonie right here, bro.
Wonderful. But what Jordan Peterson is about to say, I think, is actually a legitimate point that we need to make more on the left when it comes to the danger going forward for our democracy. Unironically, it's weird that I'm using Jordan Peterson as my device here. But if somebody says something true, I don't care who it is. We gotta respect it, right? So let's listen to what he has to say.
you're sure that's the message you want to be sending people? That they shouldn't have faith in their most fundamental institution? You might be right, but it's in your interest for that to be true. And so that's a moral hazard. And then, well, what happens when you retake the House? Because that's what's going to happen, I think. The Democrats are going to get stomped in the upcoming election.
Hope not.
Are those elections somehow valid, but yours wasn't? And so why magically when the Republicans get elected, that's honest, but when they don't, it's not? And so doesn't that take the wind out of your
Finally
story?
getting
It's
it.
like, well, it was stolen. Well, you have the House and the Senate. How do you account for that? So that to me, that
These guys, they're having not a great time right now. I'm gonna be honest.
It's going to weaken that narrative. Trump is capitalizing on anger. He's using the election issue as a means to an end, and he may believe it, but it doesn't matter because it's a weak story, especially
This, to
when
me,
the
shows
Democrats
the
lose the
difference
House. It's a weak
between
story, so it's not going to. It
Canada
doesn't have any
and, like,
momentum.
the
But
right in Canada and the right in America, where like they're still like
Somewhat
rational
reasonable.
about it to
Yeah,
some
yeah.
extent. Yeah, they're like not fully reactionary and just purely
Well,
reactionary
that's
and
the Purple Party
ideological
now.
yet.
That's the Purple Party, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's growing. It's growing. So they're pulling.
Did you ever
and a lot of
strategically vote for the Purple Party, Heem?
they weren't even on our ballot, I don't think.
Didn't they not win a single seat?
They didn't win a single seat. And bro, I went camping once in the summer. PPC fucking signs on everyone's lawn, and I was with my fiance. I'm like, don't fuck, like, I was so scared. I'm like, bro, we're doomed. These guys are gonna win the country. Like, it's over for us.
Well,
and then
the
I
thing is,
see
you
like
guys got,
nobody
a
voted
weird,
for
You
them.
guys got like a weird system though when it comes to percentages and like how you get votes and how you get seats.
No, it's pretty makes sense. It's just
Is
like
it
it's broken down.
parliamentary?
Look,
Yeah,
I
it's
did
parliamentary.
a ranked choice voting and hippy dippy once, and that led to a disaster. Okay,
Years.
but first past the post makes no sense
No,
to me.
but it is. That's what it is. It's what it is. It's just it's broken down into districts, and you vote for the person that's representing you on the team.
The thing
for
that gets
district.
me is that the NDP, when you look at the percentage of the vote they got, they should have had more seats if you're just going by percentages, right? Like obviously.
Yeah, because but the reason is all of their votes are focused in one place. It's like if everybody who voted
like
for the Democrats
California, then.
lived
It's
in,
like-
yeah,
it's
it's
like
like it doesn't
California.
matter. There's only so
Got
much
you.
power you can win, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's
It's just that instead of voting for the Justin Trudeau, I vote for like the guy who's on Justin Trudeau's team for my
Gotcha.
area.
Yeah.
But then it's worse than that, because I also think, and I've talked to lots of Republicans about this, is that the best story you've got? You got tradition on your side.
This is when he goes off. But let's just say before what he's about to say. Okay, by the way, don't look weird.
You
The
got
Republicans
tradition
do
on your
have
side, like you got
tradition
morality on your
generally
side?
on their side. That is an optical win to just be like, just put like good old days, right? Trump won in large part by just saying good old days. Optically, strategically, it's easy to just say like, don't you miss the 50s? Like, don't you miss the fun cars and the malt shops and the racism? Just the malt shops. The malt shops. Malt shops.
The concept of tradition being on your side is so weird to me. Like there's like an implicit morality behind tradition, you know?
It's not even
But-
tradition. These guys are talking about nostalgia. They're all like, that's what always happens, right? You pick out the.
True.
It's like sometimes my fiance will be like, the 1920s fits were so dope. I'm like, yeah, so like, you tried living without Instagram for a week.
I gotta say, right? When it comes to this point, this is a really good point, though. The idea that what would really stop the Democrats from saying, actually, it was rigged this time? Actually, if it was rigged, then why wasn't it rigged this time? Could have been rigged in favor of us. And then you got this back and forth. Or let's say that doesn't even start. Because maybe I'm an imbecile, but maybe I have a little bit more faith in my own party than I do the Republicans, right? But when it comes to the Republican Party, if one political party cannot accept electoral defeat, then democracy does not function. You can't democracy one party and the other party just doesn't play by democracy. If that's how the system functions, then it's a democracy until the other party takes power.
Yeah.
The issue is with like where obstructionism is and like how the Republican Party just kind of doubles down as their like current strategy. I just don't think that like the left, the political left in America always sort of placates like their expectation of civility while like while they completely defy it in every meaningful way. And like I don't think that we're gonna live in a world where we start to see them be civil again in the way that they like proclaim as the most like moral.
Yeah, I think you guys are. I don't know. Do you ever see it, Dylan, and also Rhyzohm? Do you guys ever see a situation where like it's not so fractured, American politics, like where do you think? Okay, here, let me rephrase. Do you think Republicans will ever like vote for Democratic bills or play fair at any point in the future, or it's done?
I'm very hesitant. For me, it's even like if they do vote for a Democrat, they're probably voting for a Democrat because we write policies in a way that like favors the most middle of the road like
Well, sometimes,
sensibilities
but
anyways.
that's democracy, though, right? Like you have to be able to. Sometimes, like I think it's good to negotiate with the other side just to fucking get things like.
I think it's
get
good.
so
I
fucking
think the best example of this, even though I hate this person's economic policy, sometimes I'll work with Rand Paul on, or I saying that like it's me, like I'm
Guys,
the person doing it. But
Rand.
I was about to
sometimes
say.
Democrats that I like Ro Khanna. I really love Ro Khanna. If you want a person, Ro Khanna is probably my favorite politician, the closest to me actually liking a person in politics. I try not to like politicians. Ro Khanna is challenging that standard. But Ro Khanna and Rand Paul has actually worked together on a lot of things when it comes to Yemen, for example. Even though I'm also going to call out Rand Paul recently for him continuing to support our holding of assets for Afghanistan. The libertarian one hand until it comes to Afghanistan. But I do think this is a good point by Jordan Peterson. Now, this is now where this stops, and he's about to go into ramblings. He's about to go into why the Republicans have a much better message, and they should be running on this and not the election was stolen. Which
I just
don't
can't wait
think
for
the
somebody to
Republicans.
clip.
What was that?
I can't wait for somebody to clip you saying that was a good point by Jordan Peterson, and that just gets run into the ground.
I want that. Can somebody clip that quick? I'll make it. You know what? I'll make it my bits notification.
Yeah,
Okay?
own it quick.
Bits
Own it quick.
notification. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I already got Big Papa Fascist calling me a amoral, morally corrupt,
Oh, I
bankrupt
heard
man.
that.
The thing is
Yeah.
that confuses me about this. It's amoral and morally corrupt. How can my morals be corrupt if I'm amoral?
Well, a blasphemous person of yourself should know this. As somebody of like virtuous morals, I have no idea.
Got you. Got you.
Is that the best story you've got? You got tradition on your side.
I'll give that to them. The Republicans do have tradition, right? Like generally, not all of them. For example, the tradition of democracy right now, when it comes to, when it comes to the fact that Rudy Giuliani was trying to submit fake information to the National Archives and replace fake electors, or it comes to the fact that Trump was looking at using the military to seize voting machines to buy him time till February, and like just does that's
an age-old tradition, bro. I think it's
the age-old tradition of seizing the voting machines.
Yeah, bro, it dates back to Easter, I think.
Oh my gosh! If you ever want like an actual your mind blow, go read the executive order Donald Trump had and he was ready to sign. It's actually insane. Let's finish.
How many
You got the
words
truth
is it?
as an adventure on your side. You got belief in
What was that?
tradition on your side. You got the truth as an adventure on your side.
You have the truth as an
Truth
adventure.
as an adventure.
Bro, he makes no sense. I'm telling you.
What does that mean? Truth as an adventure. Now, if we're gonna say the truth on our side, obviously as lefties we disagree with that. Like we believe that like look at COVID science and yeah, we disagree with that. But what does the truth as an adventure even mean?
Hey man, this dude has done so many benzos. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like irreparable harm to his
He's
brain.
just
and he
sitting
just had
there
a lapse.
with a fork and he's trying to eat soup. That's what he's doing. He's sitting
Exactly,
there with a food,
like-
trying to eat soup.
Bro, he's
now
going
let me
back.
tell you about the Dragon of Chaos here.
He's doing another tour. You guys, while you guys are chatting shit, he's about to be the highest paid public speaker in the world again.
So fucking
Probably.
true.
And
He
it's
was-
weird.
he was the- he was.
He
Before-
went
before
away.
he was coma, he was.
vanished. He vanished. He was everywhere, then he vanished, and now he's everywhere again, man. It'd be like if Milo Yiannopoulos was speaking at Oxford. It's like, how did you come back from this ruinous of a situation back here? I honestly got to give him a little bit of props for just that grind. Honestly, to a certain extent, I got to respect the grind.
I think it's all his daughter just like wheeling him around on a dolly from place to place and just like parking him
Gonna
and just
dolly
going,
him
here,
into
Dad.
Canadian politics. Well, okay, can I ask you a question, Heem? What if he joined the Purple Party tomorrow? He announced he joined it and he told everybody who respects him to join it as well. How dangerous would that be?
The thing is, I think it was. I think they're dangerous. Okay, I think that like soon they're gonna probably win a seat. But the thing that kind of is a good aspect of them is for the longest time the left in Canada had two main parties, but the right only had one main party. So everyone who was like center right or all the way to conspiracy land would vote for the same conservative party. Now that there's like a viable second option coming up, it just only fractures the
It's a
conservative
spoiler.
move. Yeah, it's fracturing. So now conservative traditional
He
people
should
who
start
would
his
vote
own
for the
party, the
conservatives.
Lobster Party.
It's true.
But yeah, so basically, I don't know what the effect is going to be, because are they going to pull all the conservatives over? Because I don't know if that's, it's just it might just be fuck them up even worse.
Let's see what else
Right.
the conservative movement has. And then we'll finish up the segment.
You got belief in truth on your side. That's been a
Belief in truth. So
Burns
adventure
is
in truth and
immoral,
belief in
morally
truth.
corrupt.
I hear it as belief and truth, though. I hear it a little differently.
Belief and truth?
Which, yeah, I know makes no sense, but we already heard him say truth is an adventure.
I mean, everything's an adventure. So let me hear it again.
you got the truth as an adventure on your side. You got belief in truth on your side. That's been
Belief and truth or belief in truth? It could be either.
That's how I
abandoned
hear
by
it.
the radical left. You've got belief in science.
I know he
on
said
your
radical
side.
left.
Belief
Oh, no,
in
no.
science.
Belief in science, so it's belief in truth.
Science.
I know he said radical left real clearly.
That's true.
Belief in science. What do you think he's referring to here? Because when it comes to climate change, I saw this dude. I did a whole video about him talking about climate change on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was just rambling. He was just rambling. He was like, well, if guys, look, if climate change affects everything and the environment is everything and that's what's going to be infected, how do you control for everything in a study? That was his point.
Do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you what he's gonna say? He's gonna bring it to gender.
It could be gender. It could be gender. But then
He's
that
gonna
would
say
also
the radical
be-
left is trying to make it that there's more than two sexes.
See, the
Some
problem
bullshit
here
like that.
is on this one, if you're saying belief in science and we're talking about that, the vast majority of medical institutions and scientific institutions that study these things seem to agree with the fact that
Yeah, but
Grant,
okay, okay. I have a great example, bro. The thing you're gonna bring up, I already know what he's gonna say.
Bro.
He says that the academia
is corrupt.
has
That's
been
what I was about to
yeah,
say. Exactly.
yeah.
That's the angle I usually hear is the academia is corrupt.
Yeah.
But then how can he say the science is on his side when the scientific
Because-
institutions that you would go to get the science from doesn't agree with what he's saying?
Because that was
What do you
Because
wanna
the
go
traditional
for?
science.
conspiracy chuds like these guys, what they think is the science that's the thing that gets the most noise in the scientific community is the truest thing. So the thing
Would
that
we call
like
him a
gets
conspiracy, Chud?
yeah.
Jordan,
So
what
like
conspiracies does he believe?
but just in general, this is how like people who believe in conspiracies tend to operate, or people who believe in the idea that like the truth is on their side and not with the mainstream opinion. They tend to
Understood.
operate by looking at people who were like ousted from their field or their
responsible-
institution because of the thing that they wrote. And they think that that speaks to how strong it is. And they're like, well, look, this thing is so true. They wanted to shut it down. They wanted to shut this guy out of the academic system entirely.
Yeah, it's the Jimmy Dore formula. He'll push the boundaries on the TOS on YouTube, and then he'll cry that big tech is censoring him. So it's like it's the same shit that he does.
Well, let's see the next one.
responsibility on your side. You've got on your side.
Yeah,
You've got responsibility on your side.
Responsibility.
You've got the fundamental purpose of higher
bootstraps.
education on your side. You can't conjure up a better story for Americans than
All of that was on their side. I feel that's a little broad.
You got big dicks on your side.
You got big penises on your side. You've got Jesus himself on your side. You've got MLK on your side. You know what? You've got that like those cute polar bears and like in the toilet paper commercials, right? For that talk about the soft toilet paper, they're on their side. The Coca-Cola polar bears, they're on their side
Aunt
too.
Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, she's definitely on their side. Remember, she's
Who
out
else?
of a
What was
job.
that
That's
other
the
one?
that was the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, so that was Jordan Peterson. I guess I give him. What would you give him if you had to rank him for like everything he said
looks?
in the segment? No, not his looks.
I would prescribe him an all meat diet. I think his brain was working better when he.
I
was
would
all-
give him
eating all raw
Probably
meat.
like a C minus, maybe a D here. C minus D in that range. Like I would say, like,
This
we had
guy's,
we had some middle ground. Which was the acknowledgement of reality.
Yeah, but again, he'll say this here, but I don't think he could say just the opposite on Twitter the next day.
Yeah, what are we grading him on?
I don't know, something.
Well, yeah, this is
Come
like
on.
his fairness.
I
or
rate
some
him an
shit?
F. Get the fuck out of here. Next segment.
Wow.
For the
Here,
3
you
minutes
tell your
of this-
editor to cut the video off right here. Subscribe to Dylan's channel, leave a comment. We're moving on to the next segment. All right, done. How's that for a rating?
For the 3 minutes we showed, I guess I agreed with more than I disagreed with, but there seems to be a lot of context for this conversation that I'm unaware of.